we are hypocrites to ask them to live up to it. That's why Caledonia happened. That's why Ipperwash happened. That's why Walkerton happened. That's why all the things that we now complain about happened. Because society standards have slipped to such a point that we will not fire those who lie to us. Because lying is a common day occurrence now. It used to be the last thing you'd ever want to call somebody is a liar. Now people live that way. Their whole lives are lies. And yet we won't do it. When Dalton McGeehee got elected the first time, and I remember this, he went on the radio and he said, "I will not raise your taxes, but I will not cut them either." You remember that? Then he signed a pledge to that effect. He put his name on a document and said, there's the proof. My word is my bond, is what he said, by signing it. What did he do the very first day that he got into office? No, he didn't. He repealed the Voters Protection Act. Then he raised taxes. Because with the Voters Protection Act on the books, he couldn't raise taxes. Because the law, not a sense of moral right or wrong, but the law stopped it. So, being the premier lawmaker in the province, oh God, I still shudder at the thought, he peeled away that law and imposed another. Legislation is nothing but a whim. It is nothing but a thought or an idea that happens to be the flavor of the day. It's like going to an ice cream parlor, and today's feature is Rocky Road. Yesterday it was vanilla. It's the same thing. I'm going down the land grant patent route now. The bottom line is, legislation has force and effect for as long as we want it to. Okay? And Dalton McGeehee showed us that when he repealed that act. How did he get away with that? He raised taxes, the biggest tax grab in our history. He stole more land in the Greenbelt legislation than in Canadian history. It goes all the way from Niagara Falls around to Grimsby, Peterborough. That whole Golden Horseshoe. He didn't actually physically steal it, but he regulated it to the point where no one can make a living on it unless they're farming. Well, you would think on the surface that's a great idea. Except if you're 64 years old and you're a farmer and you're farmed on your life, and next year you were going to sever off an acre and sell the rest to a son or a developer or something. He just stole your future. Because now your land, who's going to buy it? How many people are getting into farming these days? Not nearly as many as getting out. So there was no demand. So he was allowed to do that because we did not punish him at the ballot box. That is the single greatest weapon we have. When someone breaks faith with us, they need to be nailed to the wall. Why? Because we will no longer accept intolerable behavior from our politicians. No matter who they represent. So when he got away with that, and he got away with it, what lesson did we teach him? Lie to us. We like it. We'll give you a majority. So he said, okay, fine, we'll give you more. Green Energy Act. Remember that 10% I feel your pain check you get every month? Did you know that was in the legislation right from the very beginning? He didn't all of a sudden have a burst of compassion and say, oh, this is just too much for the voters. Oh, how could it be so wrong? I care. Here's 10%. Oh, they wrote that into the bill before it was ever passed because they knew you were going to flip a wig when you saw it. They're not stupid. Sometimes we call these people idiots and all kinds of things because we're frustrated and we're angry. Make no mistake, these people are not stupid, they are not idiots, they know exactly what they're doing.
Deliberate.
It is exactly deliberate. There is a game and plan, and was it Tammy was talking about? Something called global cultural development. Wait a minute. Does the whole globe live in your backyard? If it does, I don't want to weigh anywhere near there. But the point I'm making is, there is an agenda out there that wants to socialize every aspect of your life. The best way to defeat that is you don't have to take on the UN, or you don't have to take on super secret societies or all that. You have to win on your own turf. You have to win where you stand. And you do that by making sure that the politicians who put these agendas forward are soundly defeated the next time they stand for at the ballot box. That's how you do it. This democracy is the worst possible method of government except everything else that's ever been tried. That's the truth. I know it's true. Winston Churchill said so. The point I'm making is, unless we're willing to do what it takes to win back our country one vote at a time, then we're not going to get anywhere. The Canadians for Language Fairness, the first time I spoke to them, you fit them all on one table. I dare say they need a few more tables now, and I have a feeling you're going to need a few more the next time. Because Canadians We have... There's something that a lot of people forget about Canadians. And it's been through our history all the way back to the Plains of Abraham and forward. We take a very long time to get angry. But God help you when we do.
Yes, once we're angry.
In World War I, they called us the ladies from hell. Not because they like ladies, but they didn't like ones from hell, especially. Because when you heard the screw of the bagpipes, you saw full-grown men wearing skirts, carrying rifles with a real bad look on their faces. That'd scare the hell out of pretty much anybody. Especially those knobby knees and hairy legs. I mean, yeah, that sends a chill down my spine just thinking about it. But the point is, our reputation for courage is well earned. The question is it going to be something that fades, or is it going to be something we build upon? Because courage doesn't only exist on the battlefield. Everything in life is literally a battlefield. It's just what kind. Are we engaged in the political arena of ideas? Are we in Afghanistan? Are we fighting in a township? Are we fighting to correct problems in our school boards? You want to talk about a place that needs some rebuilding. You want to go there. Some of the stuff that's coming down the pike that Dalton McGinty wants to bring down on your kids, well, my kids, he'd love to, but he's not going to, because we keep them at home where they're safe. You got it. If you can homeschool, do. I understand, and there's some young people out there in the crowd today. If you can, do. I understand it's not for everybody. Okay, not everybody can. And I'm not putting down anybody who doesn't. You all have to make decisions for your family that suit your family and your condition. You know them better than I do. For us, it's worked amazingly well. We are ecstatic with the results. There's been a lot of hard work and some days, well, that's why I'm going gray, and my wife is just more short-tempered than she might be otherwise. But anyway, the point is, it's a great way to protect your kids. Not completely, you never want to shelter them completely. You do want to expose them to the outside world, but you keep them out of the indoctrination classes that school has become. So that's something else that needs to be overhauled, but that's a whole other topic we could spend days on. Yes,
have you been hearing they want to change that? They want to stop the homeschooling?
Over my dead body.
Yes, I have.
You know, in Sweden, it is now against the law. And there was a group, I'm getting off track, but I'll deal with this just for a second. In Sweden, there was a guy, you would think Sweden, a democratic country, right? Very secular, very, everything very, you know, democratic. Unless you decide not to follow the state line. And a gentleman had to flee to a Finnish island with his family because he was afraid the state was going to take his children away because he would not stop homeschooling. He was teaching his kids that what the state said about Christianity, what the state said about certain practices that go on between adults. He was talking about their view of evolution and all these things. And it doesn't matter whether you agree with him or not. He's a parent, and he has the right to raise his children with the views that he wants them to have. And as they get older, they can accept or reject those views as they mature and grow. That's what parenting's all about. Unlike what they said in Waterloo about where they want to co-parent. Yeah, well, I was talking about that with somebody earlier here today. I said, they want to co-parent? Fine, they can co-parent. When I get half the money it costs me to raise my 8 kids, they can have half the money. Because I bought that up there. They weren't there when the babies were colicky. They weren't there when the diapers were dirty. They weren't there when my son sat down to supper. Okay, and if you don't think it's expensive feeding an 18-year-old, buddy, especially one that's got a hinge in the back of his neck and a vacuum cleaner for his stomach, if you're going to eat in front of Peter, you better be ahead of him in the line because there won't be nothing but crumbs left when he goes through. Anyway, I'm not poking a little fun at him, but so the bottom line is, courage is something that we have to draw on. It's part of our heritage, it's part of our history. And it will be an example for those who come after if we're willing to remember we are Canadian. We can do anything. We have done amazing things in our past. Anybody who says our history is boring doesn't know it.
That's right.
I won't, but I could stand here for hours and tell you one story after another about how people who are Canadian or were Canadian have done some of the most amazing things. I will tell you one quick story about a guy called George. Not George from Iron Park. Some of you might have heard this story before, but this guy is called George Richardson. It's 1850, he's in the British Army. And he's fighting the Sepoy rebels in India during the revolution, or the rebellion. And the Sepoys are about as nasty a group as you'll ever meet. They have this really bad habit of skinning you alive, and they have a bad habit of just, they don't care about who you are, whether you're a medic or whether you're wounded or a man or a woman, child, whatever it is. They get their hands on you, you're going to die, but it's not going to be very pleasant and it's not going to be very quick. These guys are just a nasty piece of work. So they're on the battlefield. George has a broken arm and a broken leg. Now, with a broken arm and a broken leg, with a broken arm, I would have been out of the fight. But with a broken arm and a broken leg, I'm on my back, my little white flag's up, I'm crying for mommy, screaming for the medic, okay? My fight's over. Well, his officer is a guy called Lieutenant Laurie. And this poor kid is surrounded, because in those days, you could be as young as 14 or 15 to be a commissioned officer in the British Army. So he's fighting for his life amongst 6 sepoy rebels. Well, that just ticks off George. He gets up, and he goes over to the fight. In hand-to-hand combat, he kills 5 of them. Broken arm, broken leg. Drives them all off. The last one says, you know, this guy isn't a very nice guy, I'm leaving. So he buggers off and he saves the young kid's life. He saves his officer's life. They offer him a battlefield commission on the spot, which he turns down. They award him the Victoria Cross, which is the world's highest award for bravery. He qualifies for 3 more before the rebellion's over, and he turns all them down, figuring one's enough. He would have been one of the highest decorated soldiers in history had he accepted all 4. The chances of winning 1 and living through it are 1 in 10. They're 1 in 10,000 to get 4 of them. So this guy, he is quite the man. He goes home to Canada. World War I breaks out. He goes down to the recruiting office. He wants to fight. They turn him away. He goes home in a rage. Do you know why he goes home in a rage? He's 82. I can just see him looking at the young, 40-year-old Sergeant Major going, look, Sonny, I know more about killing men than you ever will. I've forgotten more than you know. I want to fight. So they turn him away. And he dies in London, Ontario of pneumonia in 1929, and that's where he's buried. So this guy is part of our legacy. Now, you don't have to do what George did. I certainly hope you don't ever have to do what George did. I don't want to do it. I'm a big chicken. But the point is, it's that kind of courage you can draw from. It's part of the fabric of who we are. And you need to be brave today, here, now. So that when people who want to impose their own social worldview on you in a way you don't want it to, know in no uncertain terms that not only are you Canadian, you're angry. Yeah. And when you get angry, you better not be there when I get up from this table, as my father used to say. Chores done? Well, you better not be there when I get up from this table. Boy, I'll tell you, that's all I needed to hear, because if I heard, well, holy smokes, it was over. So that's what you have to draw from. That's what, and the fight is worth fighting for. This is where we live. This isn't something over in some foreign country, that we all hear about, oh, isn't that terrible? No, this is happening. And the worst of it is, it's happening insidiously. It's creeping in under the door. Because guys like Brian are rare. Okay? Sun media is very rare. You think, where the heck, did you see anybody see CBC coming in here? No. No? See, communist broadcast, I mean the Canadian. Okay? Most of the media does not like you. They don't accept it. They think it is a badge of honor. When you get Global and CTV and CBC going, yeah, we want it because we like you, you're in trouble. Because they converted you. They only put on people they like, unless they want to tear the person apart. One last quick story and I'll turn it over to Brian. I just thought of something. I should have gone last.